welcome, everyone, to another edition of the After Hours Radio Show right here on Spaced Out Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Rob G, and we are going to have a fantastic, stupendous, awesome, epic show tonight. We have Deb Shakti, we have Josh Rutledge. Together, we have Transcendence. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a lot of other things tonight as well. It's going to be fantastic. Make sure you stay right here. You don't go anywhere. You get your popcorn. You stay right where you are at, wherever you're listening from. Let me go ahead and take a look and see who's come on in here first tonight. Courtesy of Race Fan, we got to go ahead and give the gold to Race Fan for sure. First wrench in. As always, appreciate you coming in, Race Fan. We have Robert Lamoth Jr. saying hello, getting that silver medal. There you are, sir. Right for you. And then we have the bronze, Eternity Eternal. Hi, Rob G. With the silly face emoji. Hi, Eternity Eternal. You get the bronze. Those are the medals for tonight. Let's see who else has come on in tonight. We got Kitty Catty Whack. Kitty Catty Whack, thanks for coming on in. We appreciate you showing up. Okay, we got Roger Murray. Says, I think aliens, UFO, egg, fake, and hoax. Not going to change my opinion on subject, so if cut me off. Okay, hey, I got you, Roger Murray. Don't worry about it. Everyone's entitled to their opinions. It is okay. That's what the beautiful thing about being an individual is, and being able to sit down and have a conversation. Everyone has their own opinion. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Thanks for showing up, sir. As we get down the list here, Joey Glowy, thanks for coming in. I see you out there. Who else do we have? Road Flare. Hey, Road Flare, thanks for coming on in. We have JSCO77. Thanks for showing up. We got Frankie B. Thanks for coming in. We have, can we get down the list quick enough? Let me see here. We have BA. Thanks for coming on in. Lars Jansen, I see you out there. Nick Atkins 10, long time no see. Thanks for showing up. Tim James, thanks for coming on in. Happy Saturday time for the best part of the evening. A toast to the host. Toast right back to you, Tim James. Thanks for coming on in, supporting, showing up. Miss Catherine Jones, greeting Mr. Rob G and SOR fans. Thanks for coming in, Miss Catherine Jones. We love it when you show up. It's awesome time when you show up, that's for sure. Who else do we have? FAP, thanks for coming on in, FAP. Michael Kennedy, I see you. Decipher as well. Operation Shutdown. Debbie Nickerson, Flubber Lane, Teresa Levine, and Fast Timmy, and John Lamb. K's on the inside, and we got to start the podcast side of this. So let's go ahead and get this going. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. It's going to be a fantastic night tonight. We have Deb Shakti, we have Josh Rutledge, we have Transcendence, Hours 1 and 2. Then we have Drew Banky, After Hours Wrap Up, along with Steve Stockton, Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries. It's going to be a fantastic night. Here we go. 5 seconds till radio side starts. Let's go. Greetings, space travelers. Welcome home. You just tuned your dial to Spaced Out Radio, the only place where you can own the night. I am your host, Mr. Rob G. And tonight we're broadcasting on our terrestrial affiliates across North America, plus digitally on digital platforms all around the world. Don't forget, you can access our archives for absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. where we have options that are endless. Don't forget as well, you can follow us on Instagram and X at Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is still spacedoutradio.com with options endless. Stay up to date with the SR Newswire. Get yourself some official Space Out swag. Plus, you can rock out to the man you hear right there. The Ron Bubble Casal and all. Oh, so much more. It's going to be a fantastic night tonight. As I said before, if you missed it, we have Deb Shakti, we have Josh Rutledge, we have Transcendence, Hours 1 and 2. Then we have Drew Banky with the After Hours Wrap Up in hour number 3. Steve Stockton, Tells Untold Missing Person Mysteries is going to be an epic show tonight. So glad that everyone is here, wherever you may be watching or listening from, in case you're in Radio Land. And we're going to go ahead and really not delay the show. We're going to jump right on in to the conversation. So that means it's time to go ahead and bring in our guests of the night. That would be none other than Deb Shakti, Josh Rudley, the Dream Team. So you know them individually. You know Deb Shakti, of course, one of my favorite guests to have, Josh Rutledge. We sharpen steel, and together they make Transcendence. And we're going to be talking about that plus a lot more today. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic, Rob. Thanks for having us on. I'm so excited for tonight.
Yep, feeling a lot of good vibes, a lot of good energy coming up. I think it's going to be a great show.
That's what I'm talking about. Good energy, good vibes. You got to give credit to Deb. Deb's brought that in today. She brought it in. She, for some reason, when she's on, the energy always feels like that. I always feel like that, and that's why she's my favorite guest.
Oh, dude.
We're gonna go ahead and jump into some really good conversation here. So, yes, getting it started. We've obviously talked individually, but getting you guys together. I know you guys have just started this thing, Transcendence. I've been tuning in, and I'm like, okay. I see the analytical mind. I see the spirituality side of this as well, and it's making for a good mix. How did you guys decide to do this? What is Transcendence all about? If you wouldn't mind talking to the audience about it today.
Take it away, Josh. It's your baby.
Yeah. So I don't know, Rob. I got a feeling really early, like middle of last year, that Debs and I were supposed to collaborate on a project together. And I approached her about it, but then kind of life got in the way, and we each had kind of some stuff going on, and so it fell by the wayside. But towards the end of the last year, I was like, no, I really feel strong that we're supposed to collaborate on a project. And so we actually met to do kind of a pilot episode just to see how it felt, kind of talking to each other and how the conversation went. And, like it always does, every time Debs and I have a conversation, it was just a great conversation, a lot of energy, a lot of insight. And so we agreed that it would be a good thing to kind of continue forward. And so it's funny at the end of that first episode, which you don't see, it didn't make it into the episode, was Debs is like, I've got a feeling on some names, but I'm not going to tell you what they are. I just want to see what you come back with. And so I messaged her 15 or 20 minutes later, and I was like, Transcendence. And she's like, that was one of them.
Yeah.
Way.
We're simpatico. We're just like, I don't know. Josh and I get on this wavelength, and it's almost like we just dual channel stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
the podcast is what you kind of described there. It's like, it's really, it's supposed to be kind of insightful information or, theories, ideas that's supposed to encourage the listener to really reflect internally as to what this information means to them and how it can change the way that they view and interact with their existence. And so, we've had I think the first episode was just kind of general conversation, not really following a specific theme, other than the episode that came out last week was around reincarnation. Thank you. Yeah. And then the episode that comes out next Friday is going to be a whopper as well, and I'm totally blanking on what it is as well. I'll have to go look it up, but bottom line, it's been a great conversation, and I'll come back to you with what the subject or the theme is for next week's episode.
Isn't it Portals?
That was the first one, I think.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Golly, now I'm drawing a blank.
I know
that when we were finished taping that one, I was so high, I just flew through the rest of the day. It was so crazy. So it's a good one.
That's how you feel. I mean, when you're doing the right thing, you're doing what your purpose is, and that's what powers you and what energizes you, and that's exactly what you're describing. I know the feeling, because I get that feeling too when I come in to do a show. It's just like we're here to move the needle. We're here to progress the conversation and enlighten people. And I gotta applaud the show, because that's exactly what I see in it. And I can always appreciate that. And I think there should be more of that. There should be more of shows out there that have the intent on having the viewer walk away with something more than they came with, even if that's just a new way of thinking, or
yeah,
just something. So I wanted to ask you, Debs, what is the in your mind when you guys came together to do this? I know Josh came with the idea, but what was, when you agreed to do it, what did you want to bring to it to kind of make it this thing?
I don't know, because we are both like kind of straight down the middle. I am, and I know Josh is. One side is very scientific, questioning, always wanting to go deeper and find out more meaning to life, in the material world, and through science. And then the other half is the spiritual, the metaphysical, the mysterious consciousness. And so my hope with, when he brought this up and we were just trying it out, my hope and what has really transpired is that we bring all of that into the conversation, and we might bring a lot of information to people because we both have, we have some vast experience and studies that we have educated ourselves with. But really what we want to leave people with is something to think about and go explore on their own and have a direct experience. And by the way, I just wanted to say, the third episode is about simulation theory.
Yep, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah,
that is awesome. It's that's the beautiful thing when you look around this space and you see there are probably thousands of shows in this space, but when you fill a void, a necessary need, a show like this fills that void, and it makes it worthwhile. It's not just another show, it's a show with a purpose. And no, that's me speaking from the heart. I'm genuine, if anything else, right? So with that being said, it fills a need, and I always applaud that. We had Reed Summers on recently. He has a new show, Emergent. Same thing for him. And it's beautiful to see this thing kind of put itself together, because I think we're all doing that, and the people appreciate that. So where is the show? Where can people find the show? Because you guys should go right on over and subscribe to the show for sure.
So if you go to, it's currently being hosted on my YouTube channel, which is Mystic Journeys. And so if you go to YouTube and look up Mystic Journeys, or the handle, if you put it in the address bar, is Mystic Journeys 44. And you can subscribe to the channel there, and then there should be a playlist for the podcast. You can actually follow the playlist, and then you would get new episodes. So we're working on getting it out as an audio podcast. Right now, I think you can listen to it on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. I'm working on getting it into Pandora and Apple Podcast as well.
Josh is working his butt off for us. He's incredible.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Much success to this show, and I know it will, because it has the right people involved, and that always makes a difference. And I'll just say this, and you don't even have to comment on this, because this is me just saying this about the field. But recently, when I look around, like I always do, I see part of this community that really is not in it for these reasons. I see, that a lot of podcasters, hosts of shows that are in it for themselves, for ego, and not to move the needle, and not to enlighten individuals. And I had to say that, because I was ranting to my girl just yesterday about this, and I'm like, it's a disservice to the people when that is not your intent. When your intent is to serve your own self, then it's a disservice to humanity and the viewers in all of the sort. So that's just my little blurb on that, and I'm saying that because you guys are doing the total opposite. So
Thank you.
keep up the awesome work. Now, transcending. Okay, so we have just shifted into a new year, 2024 to 2025. We've talked individually, but I'd like to know, how did you guys view 2024, and what do you think about what we've already experienced here in 2025?
Well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. This is how crazy we are. Like started talking at the same time. Go ahead.
So, I mean, I think that there was a lot of energy, certainly in 2024. I'll say that the first part of 2025 has also felt very energetic, to the point where, for a few days, even with speckled throughout the month, it's been so overpowering that no matter how much I ground and shield, it's had an effect on me, maybe kind of feel tired. And so bottom line, I think that there's a lot of energy going into this year to support, in my opinion, change, just kind of holistic, drastic change across many different peoples, many different societies, not just, from a U.S. perspective, but across the board, that we're looking at a significant time for growth. And I don't mean growth as in, the economy or whatever. I mean individual, intrinsic growth from the inside out that will shape our extrinsic world in a way that we haven't thought about yet.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. 2024 was a year of great repositioning for me. I shouldn't say lost, many people I love, and including one of my dogs, left this planet in 2024. My best guy friend, other than my husband, left early in February, John Yost, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And I'm like, okay, it seems to be a theme for this year. What am I going to take away from this? Well, it was just one theme, but it kind of seeped out into the rest of the themes that were happening. And that was, you don't ever lose anything. It's the same thing we talk about all the time on here. You and I, Rob, and you and I, Josh, nothing ever goes away. It just changes form and function via its vibrational state. That's all it is. It's energy oscillating at different rates of vibration. So when a person leaves their body, it doesn't mean they're gone. This means you have to find a new way to talk to them, right? Mm-hmm. And so what 2024 did for me was help boost me into a deeper state of introspection, and left me with a very strong, motivation to find better ways to connect with consciousness. And 2025 has come at me in spades with that. It's been a very high energy month, this first month. And I have had a lot of work. There are a lot of people who are like afraid of all the chaos and all the change and all the what ifs. And yet underlying all that, I see people moving up in their vibrational state collectively and understanding things that they never would have even entertained a year ago. All these concepts that we talk about on these shows, now it's like mainstream stuff. And I think that behooves us it bears more responsibility on those of us who do this kind of work to really stick with it and help everybody out, help them learn, help them grow as we can. So that's kind of where I see us going in 2025, is just like explosive, massive growth on all levels.
And just to kind of echo again, to not to add to, because you said it perfectly, but to echo additionally, just to say that I feel like we are on the verge of a mass awakening, if you will. People who have never even contemplated or considered any of the topics that we discuss on here, the other Space.radio programs, our show, whatever the case may be, that they're on the verge of a large awakening, and they're going to be seeking out people that can help them navigate this new level of existence. And I think that's where, I saw an opportunity, not so much, like you said, Rob, not so much from like a personal gain perspective, but to really be a beacon of providing some of this information to those people who are ready to hear it, to grow beyond the limitations that they've placed on themselves. And I see 2025 as being a staging year for a lot of that happening, probably likely in 2026 and beyond.
That is all. You guys were awesome in both of those blurbs you just gave me there, because here's how I feel the same way. I'm like, I felt, even earlier, 2023, every year that I've looked at this, 2022, let's go back to then, every year seems to take another step up. And you're right. We are going to be the beacons for those who are just now coming in, because yes, in 2024, it did seem like we had an influx of people who wouldn't have normally looked at this topic. And I think they can't help but be connected to it, because it's all about consciousness, and the overarching thing is consciousness, and we all have a tie to that. So whether you've never looked at this subject before, whether you're totally into this, the one thing that unites us and bonds us is the consciousness aspect of it. And I think people are starting to click onto that. So being the beacon as well, speaking to that, because I think that goes back to, having shows that have the viewers' best interest at heart, and humanity's best interest at heart. Because the worst thing that I would hate to see is for someone who's newly enlightened coming into the space and then not seeing transcendence, or not seeing the After Hours radio show, and seeing one of these shows that really is about the ego of the host. I would hate for that, because it's that first taste of this experience, and it's a bad taste. So that's why I always promote shows like yours, mine, and others, because these are the beacons and places that I think people will walk away with at least a better understanding of what is going on. And even for us that are in the space, it has been a roller coaster for the last year and a half, because things are happening so quickly, things that we didn't think were going to happen for 20 more years at least, or we didn't really have a number. We just didn't feel like it was anytime soon, and it seems to have ramped up pretty quickly here. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Oh yeah, tremendous acceleration. Excuse me, of the energy, which then makes everything material move faster. It's happening on par with how I thought it would, as far as the timeline, but I'm still shocked because I'm like, wow, like the star teachers, when I channel them, they're saying like, this is the timeline, this is the incarnation that it all happens. And intellectually I hear that, and I talk about it and all of that, but I'm like, I'm watching it happen. It's just falling into place little by little by little, and it's snowballing. Like, it's going so fast, it's almost hard to keep up with. It's almost hard to keep my bandwidth. Josh was talking about like feeling tired, drained sometimes, because it is so much. So we also have to remember that it's important to get back to our roots, literally, go outside, be in nature, be under the stars, be under the sun, a part of each day, so that we can it's almost like putting your phone on the charger, right? If we don't, our battery's going to go down and we're not going to be very effective. Eventually, we'll blink out for a while. And this is the time we don't want to blink out. We want to be conscious. We want to be full of energy. We want to be aware of the beauty around us and not just consuming information all the time. Mm-hmm. So there has to be a balance of that.
Definitely. Anything you want to add to that, Josh? We got about 2 minutes for a break.
Just to kind of pick up on what Deb said towards the tail end around consuming information. We have had a lot thrown at us, even in the last couple of weeks, with the special from News Nation, which I'm sure you're going to get into. And so it's important, I think, that each one of us, because I cannot stress this enough, all of existence is an individual experience-based existence. So each one of us is meant to consume information, but then reflect on it internally and see what it means to us. And so it's good to listen to what other people think, something means, or what it, how it furthers the study or the education or whatever. But ultimately, it's for you to reflect on internally and decide what it means to you and how it shapes your existence.
Right.
That is awesome. And this is also a moment, and we'll talk about this also on the other side of the break, but skeptics, it's time to stop playing against each other, and it's time to come together, because this moment includes you too. The enlightenment process requires you as well. This is for all of us. This is not for just people who have been entrenched in UFO lore for all these years. This is for every individual on this planet. We're going to talk about that and a lot more. So you guys don't go anywhere. It's going to be an awesome show right here. Deb Shakti, Josh Rutledge, Transcendence, Ufology, Humanity, all of the sort right here on Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. All right, we are clear. Oh wow, that went by fast. It's gonna be, man. I just
God, that went so fast. Crazy. Every time I'm on this show, I just am amazed. That's so nuts.
And that energy high that you're talking about, like I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. So I think energy does resonate, right? And I think it may spill over into the audience. So I hope they get to take that good energy and walk away with it as well, and spread that. Yeah. Just spread it. Keep spreading it. Let's keep spreading the love tonight.
Yeah,
that's what we're.
That's my hope. That's my hope. I just came off of like 2.5 hours of recording my own podcast with a super secret person that you'll see in probably the next few days. But it was just so mind blowing, and I'm just like this. Then I come on this show, and I'm just like, oh my God, can I go any higher? Can I take you higher?
Yeah, the Creed song now. Yeah.
Yep.
That's how I'm feeling too. I just did a show on my channel too, and it's when you were talking to ears that are now listening. Like, of course, people in this field listen because we're interested in it. But to know that you're talking to some of those new people, that's what always gets me, is that new, even if it's one person in the audience that is new to this. That's why I like to dumb it down when we explain things, and not just talk UFO jargon, because it's all about the new person that has come in for the first time.
Right.
I see you out there, Scott Rosen, Carol Amerio. You guys, I didn't see you earlier. Tina Smith. Let's see who else. I know I missed a few people coming in. Joe Monk.
Yeah, Joe really wants you to do the moose antlers.
Yeah, moose antlers. So what is that? I saw that. Okay. That's for you, Joe Monk. Joey,
Well,
let's see. What else do we have? Phil, Dirty Phil stopped by for a minute, says he loves Debs. That's why he came by. Appreciate you, Phil.
I
And
love you so much.
telling people to hit the like button with the still cheer, folks. Please do. Please let people know you like the show, right? So that sometimes that's why people decide to watch the show, is if they see enough likes on there. So go ahead and hit those likes, juggle the algorithm a little bit, and get us out there, because these conversations should be heard by human beings, which means everyone. So let's do that. And Susan Alloway, I see you out there. Michelle Blasky. Hey, Michelle. Nice to see you back and appreciate you showing up. Let's see. Who else do we have out there? We have Deidre C. Deidre C. Hi, Deidre C. A few people I didn't get to, and I think that could be it. The Andromedan. Hi, the Andromedan. Thanks for coming in. Christine. I don't know if I said hello, but hello. Hi. Rezo Factor. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate you. Algory. I see you out there also. Let's see. Gemma Jackson. Hey, Gemma. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing up to the show tonight. And to Mothman. Did I say hello? Hi to Mothman. Appreciate you showing up. W Decker was here, right? I saw W Decker. W Decker, thanks for coming on in. And yep, there he goes. And yeah, we're looking good. Michael Kennedy. Okay. All right. Looks like we're looking good. We've got about a minute left. And yes, I agree, Ms. Catherine. 2025 is off to a rip-roaring start and gaining speed. Just can feel it. It's crazy. Yeah.
Don't you just feel like you're kind of buzzing all the time?
For sure.
That's how bizarre the energy is, but it's really cool though. I like it. It is. It's energizing energy, I guess. It's kind of an oxymoron, but so good.
Well, it's interesting too, because when you think about it, if you've always operated at one level and then now you're operating at a higher level, it's going to take time for your body to acclimate to receiving all of that. So you're going to have symptoms, right, while that happens.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be at that new level. And then, in a year or 6 months, whatever, it's going to raise you again. And then you're going to ramp
up. Welcome back. As you hear, we are in the building with Deb Shaki. We are in the building with Josh Rutley, talking transcendence for humanity. For everybody out there, make sure if you missed any of the show tonight, jump in the archive. They are 100% absolutely free. YouTube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. As we go ahead and continue the conversation. So yeah, definitely. The year has started off really good. We're talking about energy, and it just seemed to be filled with this this wonder of what's going to happen next. And I said this on the show I did earlier today. I said 2025 has been off to such a great start that and the moments have been so epic. The implications are so mind-boggling that if we can vet the things that have happened just so far this year, then we can go the rest of the year without anything. And this would still probably be the biggest year that I've seen within ufology, maybe for humanity in the last 1,000 years. I don't know. Maybe I'm going a little far with that. How do you?
I don't know. I don't know. I think we're just scratching the surface of what 2025 is going to bring as far as the UFO phenomenon or whatever you want to call it. I just call it consciousness, but in particular, sightings and connection with other beings, non-local consciousness, non-human intelligence. It's just now, I mean, we've had so much in the last few weeks, but I think it's the tip of the iceberg. I just really know it is. I'm very excited for it.
I felt for probably the last 2.5 years, I felt that there was likely some arrangement that came out of, kind of the end of Blue Book that said, we're gonna let people know, but we need time because the governments of the world never do anything fast. And so we need time to bring them up to speed. And I feel like now we're basically nearing or even potentially past that deadline. And the other consciousnesses of existence have basically said, hey, we had an agreement. You all didn't live up to it. So we're just going to let things start, snowballing, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to happen whether we agree to do it or not.
That's sort of feeling here that it's going to happen regardless sort of situation. And it, we'll get into the things that are happening right now here in a moment, but it just feels like whoever is on the other side of this consciousness is directing us in this moment to potentially the moment that we've all been looking forward to. And I want to say this because we said this during the break, but for the radio audience, just a word to skeptics out there. Like I always say on all shows that I invite skeptics in. I want skeptics as a part of the conversation. I don't want to simply talk in an echo chamber where it's a lot of people who already believe what's going on and have had their experiences, because that's great. But it's about the other ones that I don't want them to be behind the ball when the moment comes. And that's kind of, people talk about a personal disclosure, things of that nature, but skeptics in a lot of their minds, they don't even look at this as something that's possible. They don't even look at this as a reality, even though there's so much evidence in their face. And you'd always wonder, like, what will it take to bring a skeptic, on board, as far as just understanding that there's more to this than what we understand in this reality bubble that we currently live in. Do you have anything to say about that, Josh?
Yeah. So I also want to be very clear that I think that anything in this topic deserves a logical level of skepticism, because you don't want to just take everything at face value. Skepticism gives you that ability to take a step back, look at it from different angles, and really what you'll end up with is a much stronger supporting evidence, if you will, that supports whatever it is that you're experiencing. So skepticism is healthy. The what we typically see, though, from a lot of people is just a staunch non-belief. And for staunch non-believers, the only thing that will ever sway them is a personal experience.
Exactly. Yeah. And even then, they have to be in the right range of frequency to even absorb that. But I believe that the direct experiences that are being given right now are so mind-boggling, so pointed and custom fit for each person, that it's undeniable. I mean, just some of the things that I've run across with new clients who've had their first experience, and they're like, I don't believe in this, what's the science have to say about this? And yet they're moved. There's something different in them. And, say what you will about, the crash retrieval stuff that came out last week with Jake Barber. I have mixed feelings about it, But the one thing that really struck me was when he started talking about the consciousness piece.
Mm-hmm.
When here's this rough and tough, military special ops helicopter pilot talking about miles away yet from where he was supposed to pick up whatever it was, a mystery box or the egg or whatever I can't remember when this happened, but he said suddenly he was overcome with feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a holistic feeling of all the emotions all at once. And he started crying in front of his peers, which just doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know, maybe Drew can speak to that. I'm sure there are hard-nosed military guys. Maybe even Drew did when he was in the military, cried in front of his brothers, but it doesn't happen often. And that struck me because I'm like, okay, they're going to hit them hard right in the heart, if nothing else, to get them to pay attention or ask questions later. So there has to be a healthy skepticism. I'm in agreement with Josh about that. It's very important that we come at this intelligently, but we don't want to let our human egoic analytical minds take over and not accept things that we are not used to just because we're not used to them.
Yeah, I think I'll echo onto that a little bit and say that this image is in my head, and I feel like if I don't get it out, it's been there since before the break, and so I have to say it. So we were talking about kind of the building of frequency and the building of energy and people coming around and new people coming to it. And so if you think about the movie Elf, towards anybody who's ever seen the movie Elf, or if you've not, I'm sorry, I might ruin something for you, but towards the end, when Santa's trying to get out of the park and they're all standing around the horse carriage singing the Christmas carol, the person who ultimately gives Santa's sleigh enough power to achieve liftoff is the staunch non-believer beginning to sing, right? If you pay attention, they're all singing. He's got some energy, but it's James Cain's character who ultimately starts singing, and that's what gives Santa's sleigh enough energy to fly. And so, in my opinion, these staunch non-believers, the ones that start to have these experiences, and by the way, they'll continue to have them until they reach the moment where they kind of wake up. But when they do, and they flip that switch from staunch non-believer to possibility, just cracking the door a little bit, the willingness to open the door even is enough that will create a landslide of energetic resonance that will echo around the planet.
Yeah. And I think it's self-generating once it gets to a certain point. So it begins to gain momentum on its own, like a 0-point energy device.
I agree. And yeah, consciousness, as we said at the beginning, is going to be the key to this all. And the thing is that, it's going to be wild when they have the realization, because truthfully, the way that I've looked at it is that we have our entire lives had consciousness experiences. We just had not identified with what that was. And there's so many different examples of small situations where your consciousness took over. We always talk about intuition and all those senses that we have.
Yep.
And it's just the moment that you realize the moment you get it, and then you look back on your life, then you see that it was always there. And I think that's what a lot of the skeptics coming in will, eventually get to realize. And the thing is that, I hate that we're on separate sides, because, it is literally just enlightenment of who you are as a human. It's not trying to sway you a particular way or get you to believe something that's tie into a belief system. It's literally just understanding who we are as human beings. And I think they'll walk away better, better for knowing or being able to connect with that side, and just acknowledging the fact that there is more maybe to this experience than what we understand. And for everyone out there, because we know that this is real, and we know there will be the moment that we all know, everyone, and it shouldn't be like a touchdown dance in front of skeptics and saying, you guys were wrong,
No.
right, you know what I mean? And I just want to make sure we kind of set the stage for that, because there will be a day where that moment comes up, and it's about how we accept them in, and kind of just hug each other is essentially what it is as human beings.
I agree.
I gotta tell you, I'll share a personal experience. So I've got a really good friend who's we were both raised very religious, but he's kind of kept it going. And I was at his house last summer, back where I'm originally from, the Kentucky, Indiana area, and I was visiting with him. And we had been talking about channeling and things like that. And he was very curious because he's got a very open mind. But I could tell that he also had quite a bit of skepticism about the whole, idea and notion of it. But at one point we started talking about, because I was seeing entities on his property and I was describing them to him. And he was saying how his wife's aunt has also described the same entities to him. So it kind of clicked in him that here's two people who don't know each other who are describing the same entities. And so that triggered a panic attack. And so he started to have a panic attack. And I applied Reiki at the time that he was having the panic attack. And as soon as my hand activated Reiki on his back, he said he felt this rush just come out of him and dissipate, and he immediately felt better. And from that point forward, he said that he believes in channeling and everything else that I've got to say. So it was a powerful experience, but again, he had to have it, right? Me telling him about it wouldn't change a thing. He had to have that experience for it to change him.
Wow.
When you talk about Reiki, 10 years ago, my idea of Reiki, because I understand what it is now, but 10 years ago, I would have looked at it as, how could the person heal another person? Like, that's not possible. Then you would see an example of maybe real, maybe not, I don't know. But if you look at televangelists and they do the little touch on the head, the heal, and the person like, oh, I'm healed, and all these certain things. So reality programs you to say that isn't real or that's not possible. But there are literally situations when I, became more enlightened on and connected with whatever this is. I had a Reiki, I guess, situation where I healed my pet. Well, I didn't heal my pet, but the healing energy came to me and brought my pet back to life, which was just mind blowing. Just when you experience something like that, it's just, it's I think it's we are so powerful as human beings. Like I almost wonder what our limits are, if we'll ever understand what those limits are. And I saw somebody in the chat wanting to know, like, are we really this close to kind of being in this moment? And I think the answer is yes. I mean, you literally, if you look back a couple of years and look at what's going on now, or just the feeling, it's different. It's totally, totally different.
Yeah. I mean, the energy is completely different. The landscape's different. The environment's different. But this, I don't know, there's something stirring in everyone right now. And that's why people seem uneasy. They feel weird or whatever. If we can just ride that out, it will even out. Our bodies have to take time. Our physical matter has to take time to catch up to what our energy fields are doing, right? And they're getting infused with all of this new, vibrant, new experience that that we're not used to. So we also have to help each other with Reiki, with any kind of healing modality that we can help others with, just being present with someone. You don't even have to touch them, just being present with them until their energy kind of evens out with their body. It's important.
I didn't get to ask you this, Debs, because I hadn't talked to you. I've talked to Josh since this all happened, but as the things that we'll get into more in the second hour, just the mood of ufology in the last part of the year, like, did you, as an energy person, do you feel something different about what's going on, like specifically pertaining to the events that have been taking place lately, the drone situation, which could be potentially, because it's still not known, could be maybe a contact situation. But as far as the energy behind all that, did you feel anything different when this was coming in? Like when you first heard about it, did your energy, your spidey senses kind of tingle at all?
Yeah, my spidey senses are always tingling these days, but I don't want to say that I felt different. I was not shocked, but it was greatly amplified from what it had been. It's like what we've been building up for, it's what we've been working towards, and finally it's starting to come through, but it's coming through in a way that we are so not used to, that it's freaky. I mean, a lot of things don't make sense, right? Now all of a sudden everything's a drone. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why are they calling them drones when they're very obviously, all the videos I've seen look just like the same UFOs that we've been seeing for several years, right? So there's something weird being inserted in there, and I don't know if that's coming from governmental or military industrial complex, or if it's just this new energy spiking new ideas and stirring the pot a little bit. Maybe we get so used to, how we were talking about the energy ramping up, ideas, the acceptance of ideas every once in a while take a quantum leap. And I think that's where we are now. Everybody's suddenly okay with talking about UFOs and sightings and even just wondering about it. Even the deep skeptics, it's part of the global conversation now, where 2 or 3 years ago it wasn't at all. So everybody kind of got calm with it, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's everyday chat stuff. Now suddenly all this weird stuff is happening that nobody can explain, and everybody's wandering around. And I think that's what it is. It's like they insert a bit of the bizarre in there just to get us to, like a pattern interrupt, so that we'll pay more attention. And I can't wait to see what we're paying attention for, because it feels big.
Well, and I'll share, if I can, Rob, just a personal, something personal that I think, again, kind of, highlights what Debs is saying. So when my wife and I first started dating, we both knew that there was something there, but we were both also a little bit scared because we'd never, experienced what was there. And so it's always a weird situation when you're in a relationship and you kind of feel like you're ready to say those 3 words, I love you, but there's also like a lot of vulnerability and risk that comes along with doing so. And so what I came up with and what we started doing is I would say, I see you, which was, I picked a name for it. I was like, let's just call it Cornelius. So we called it, we don't know what it is, we're going to call it Cornelius. So we would say, I see you at the end of every phone call or whatever. So the way I think about this, all this stuff with drones, is just the same. People are ready to make the leap and accept that they're UFOs, but they're not ready to say that word yet. Yeah. And so they're calling it something else. In their mind, in their consciousness, in their heart, they've already made the decision that what they're experiencing is unknown. But when they talk, because of the taboo that has been on the topic for so long, They're not ready yet to say the words, but they know it to be true in their heart. And that's why we're seeing this energy shift, because so many are there. They're at that point. They're not ready to say the word yet.
Yeah. Even weirder, have you guys heard this? Because certain terms cause you in the algorithm and social media to get shadow banned, people are no longer calling them UFOs, UAPs, any of that stuff, not even drones. They're calling them Dior bags. Like,
Dior?
Yeah, the designer, Christian Dior.
Okay. Yeah.
Go look on the internet when you get off the show. Just look up on YouTube, for instance, or TikTok. Dior bags, Dior bags.
Wow.
Tens of thousands of UFO videos, but they're not going to say UFO sighting, UAP, ET. They're calling it Dior bags so that they don't get shut down. And now it's becoming part of the mainstream conversation. People are talking about seeing Dior bags everywhere. When I first started seeing it, I'm like, are they starting to show up looking like a handbag? That's weird. So it's just another weird little thing about the phenomenon.
That is weird. That definitely is weird. But the way I felt about it in just when this all started at the beginning of it, I just had this feeling come over me. And the only way I could describe it is like if you had an old radio, you had it sitting on a station and it's giving you just a bunch of radio static, and that's what you get every single day. It almost, I think, the Will Smith movie kind of reminds me of that. And then one day you get a broadcast, you get a word over that static, and it's that feeling. That feeling is the feeling that I'm getting in this moment, and I don't know why. It could be nothing, but I guess we'll find out. But we're going to continue this conversation on the back half of the next hour. You guys don't go anywhere. Right here, Spaced Out Radio.
Conversations that move the needle.
Conversations that move the needle.
You're listening to After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, we are off camera for the next 5 minutes. See you guys in a minute.
Okay.
All right, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2. We got about 30 seconds before we come back from break. You guys, please put any questions that you'll have in caps, and I'll go ahead and keep an eye out, and we'll make sure we tag them so we can address those on the back half of this hour after the next break. And Zenzabil, happy birthday week. I hear it's your birthday this week, so happy birthday. I would sing to you, but not enough time because we're coming back here in 2 seconds. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio after hour number 2 with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and our fantastic guest here tonight, Deb Shockey, Josh Rutledge of the podcast Transcendent. You guys got to make sure you go and subscribe, youtube.com/Mystic Journey 44, right? And if you listen to this show, jump in the archives, absolutely free, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're at it, go check out my show, youtube.com/Mr. Rob G, because we have awesome stuff going on over there as well. And we're jumping right back on into the conversation. So, yes, I think we all agree. Hour 1, we talked about energy and consciousness and how this is feeling. Definitely feels like there's something different going on in the air. And I ended the last hour kind of what analogy I was giving was it felt for me this moment as these things started happening, which we'll kind of get into what the things are, the drone situation when it first hit. And no one understood what it was. For me, it felt like maybe a contact moment, a moment where you have this radio that's giving you radio static for like a year straight. You're tuning in every day, nothing. And then one day you get that faint broadcast to come through, someone at the other end. That's kind of how I felt in this moment. And maybe I'm looking too far into it, but the further it went with the drone situation, because initially it's like people have been flying quadcopter drones over military installations, but that's not what it was. It ended up being these big, huge SUV size, whatever they are, some of them big as school buses that I've heard. This other guy said as big as a 2-car garage. And then I'm like, okay, that's weird. Okay, let's see what they say. Oh, still no answers. No one knows. Okay, not adversarial. They're admitting that. Okay. And then I'm like, what are we really left with? And there aren't many choices left. How did you guys feel about that when it got to that point? Where is your mindset on that now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like that, when we first got together and talked about it, I think, with Dave back when it kind of first became a big deal, I cautioned against the worry is that the 24-hour news cycle is that eventually it was going to become old news and people were going to stop talking about it. And that's kind of what happened. It's still ongoing. I still see posts by, connections on Facebook and places that they're still seeing drones in the area. Like it's still happening. You just don't hear really anything about the news about it anymore. And so, unfortunately, I think because news coverage also, I think sometimes determines the amount of attention that something gets. Because of that, I don't know that we'll ever really have a definitive answer on the drones. But I think it's a very interesting, for sure, topic. And, I'm happy that individual people are still posting when they are seeing them or filming them or, whatever, and making sure they're spreading the information, even if, regular media is no longer interested.
Definitely. I think that's key. Yeah, I think it's key that we continue to report sightings and experiences and so forth, because let's be honest, mainstream media reports what brings in the bucks. And, right now the focus is on politics and, what's happening there. And so this has been kind of shoved out of the way, but it doesn't mean it's not still happening. In fact, a few minutes before the show started, I went out to, water the dog, and it's a beautiful starry night. And all I did was just look up for 2 seconds And there they were. Just
Yeah, they're
two
up
of them flashing at the same time, about an arm's length away. Holding my arms out like this, that far away, both of them signaling at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. What was that? It was just them saying, howdy.
Yep.
You know, here's some energy for tonight. We love you, whatever. So
It
it's
feels like that's
happening
what they're
all the
doing.
time.
It feels like they're really trying to reach out in this moment. Is just what it feels like. Because the show I did earlier today on my channel, once again, youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G. You should go check it out. I actually covered this because my whole thing was, as Josh just said, I had an issue with how the attention spans, how short the attention spans are, just for people in general. But
Right.
I felt that it was important in this moment, being that our goal is disclosure, and then what we do past that. That if this would happen to be a moment, not saying that it is, but if it would happen to be a moment of disclosure, then it worried me that the attention span was so short, especially within the community. Because what this says to me is, if aliens were to land tomorrow and we get to this disclosure moment, that the attention span will be that short, and we will continue on with this crazy world that we're already living in, and that things won't really change. It gave me a glimpse of that in that moment, with the attention spans being so short, because the fact is, as Josh said, it's still going on. And one thing I did want to point out about the fact that it's still going on is the reason why I did the show is to bring it back into the conversation, because as news cycles progress, things get left behind and you never get to go back to those things. So I think it's important for us to kind of, until it gets resolved, to keep it part of the conversation. Keep it up, keep it out there. And there was 2 days ago, it was 2 or 3 days ago, the New Jersey mayor, they interviewed him because they were like, hey, is it still going on? He's like, yeah, it's still going on. And not only that, but he had stated, and I played the video of this on my channel. He said in the video that he had gotten with some videographers there in Long Island, and the videos that he saw these bright lights, white lights, he said, transform into physical objects. They transformed into these things that they're seeing. And the weird thing, not really weird, but the crazy thing about that is that this mayor is not a UFO believer. He's someone who's coming to the reality that there's something weird going on. But his words were that these balls of light, as they got closer, they transformed into a physical object. And that's something to think about, because we are seeing both. When we go back and look at last month, we were seeing both. We were seeing balls of light. We were also seeing physical objects. We were trying to, with our rational minds, take physical things and put them in a man-made category. But I think one of the links that we were just given with this mayor's statement is that, and we thought this could be possible, that maybe for some reason these extraterrestrials were able to manifest themselves into these physical things. It was just a thought. But this gentleman has said he's watched the video where that actually happened. So I think that's a pretty big thing. And then there was also another gentleman last month who, when this was at the height of what was going on, he came on News Nation. Shout out to News Nation. But he came on the News Nation and stated that he saw an object that was as big as a 2-car garage. And he said when he saw it about 150 feet off the ground, it looked like this huge machine, sort of drone sort of thing. And he took a picture of it as it started going off. And in the picture, it shows itself as a light.
I know.
A classic orb that we would normally see. So that there may be something else going on there. I don't know if you guys saw any of that, or what do you think about that?
I did see that one, but what it brought to mind is I've seen stuff like that my whole life. You know, it either goes from a physical kind of, craft and transforms into like an orb and then shoots off or disappears, or vice versa. And I've experienced this personally, and I bring it into a lot of my quantum hypnosis inductions, like even the group one I did, not long ago, where you literally do, I believe the orb is your consciousness. This is how all consciousness travels through dimensional space, if you will. But when it comes into our third dimensional space, it can choose to take a physical form, like a craft. So I don't know, it's just a theory of mine, but I've traveled that way myself with these beings. And you either travel in an orb and you wind up in a craft, or you're in a craft and you wind up in an orb. So I think it's the same phenomenon, but with different properties depending on what needs to be done and even what frequency you're in.
And I'll get you right next, Josh. But I wanted to say this: in our community, we can understand that we can understand that an orb potentially can turn into something based on previous experiences. But Josh, in this reality world that we're supposed to live in, something isn't supposed to be able to transform into something. And to hear someone who's not within the community give that exact description
that's
is
powerful.
mind-blowing, right? You think about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it's something that is meant to challenge our perceptions of what is real and what is not real. Debs, when we first met, you gave me an analogy, because I mentioned how, I had an experience, and then all of a sudden I started seeing and experiencing all these other things. And you gave the analogy of, it's like a radio, and you've tuned your frequency in to the frequency to be able to experience other things. So I think that all of this stuff is happening around us all the time. But if you're not tuned in to perceive it, then you don't. You dismiss it as a bird or an airplane or whatever the case may be. And so I think that, statements like that by the mayor and that type of review helps people move that dial even just a little bit to get closer to the frequency where they will begin to themselves perceive these new occurrences. And all, again, kind of getting back to the idea that it's all intended to raise the consciousness awareness of the individual. And I think, from a human history perspective, for the first time in thousands of years, we as a species are in a place where we may not assign UFO or paranormal activity as being angelic or godlike. Like, we might look at it from a different perspective. In our previous existences, we would have said that was, the Zeus that was coming to visit us or whatever, or things like that. And so, but we're in a place now where more and more people are spiritual, but not religious. They're open to other things in their spiritual practice. And so we're actually at a point where this type of visitation may not result in us worshiping them, but instead working together with them to change the dynamic of our existence.
And I think that's when we make that quantum leap, that quantum jump. When we go from deification of something that is perceived as maybe more advanced than we are, and I'm not even sure that they are. I was just listening to Whitley Strieber talking about this. He's not sure that they're that much more advanced, some of them, than we are. But we're right on the edge of being there, and they're kind of hanging out until we get it, right? Till we learned how to take the training wheels off the bike. But it's important to know that it is happening, and it's happening in the way that has probably worked for billions of years with all kinds of civilizations.
Mhm.
I'm very sure of that. I think it's a process, and we've moved up in that step where we're about to take that next leap, but we have to have some of this other context first. So that tuning of the dial is very important, or we're not going to perceive it. It like Josh said, and I totally agree. It's always been happening. They're always here. Everything's happening all at once in the same place. We've talked about this before, Rob, right?
Oh
But we
yeah.
can't
Oh, yeah.
perceive it unless we're in that expanded perceptive mode.
Yeah, yeah. And to add to that here, the idea that Josh just posed about how we've looked at these things historically as gods because we didn't understand the technology. We were just so far primitive that we just couldn't get it. And it's in a moment now where we have made advancements, maybe not get to the level of what these things are doing, but we still are at least at a point where we could have the conversation and kind of better understand what it is that we're looking at. We're looking at entities that have tech and they may be a little more advanced than us. They're not gods. They're not this. They're not that. And I think maybe for them, this is the right time to really contact us, because when you think about it, when people say they've always been here and they've never, why haven't they done anything, whether that was good or bad? Maybe it was as simple as our state of technology at the time just wasn't there. We were, it's kind of hard to have a conversation with someone that you're viewing as a god when we could essentially almost now have the conversation as peers. It's just like your cousin that came from out of town. He's a little more well off than you. Maybe he took a few more college courses and he knows a little bit more. He's a smart guy. But you guys are still the same, your peers, right? And I think that might be kind of what it is. And they're like, okay, yeah, they're kind of ready to have this conversation. So let's reach out and let's start showing up in the skies every night, and let's do this thing in New Jersey for every single day for 2 or 3 months straight, and let's get their attention and let's have the conversation now.
Well, and I've seen those. I took my family. So we had an event that was happening in the Phoenix area, in this part of the sky near the Big Dipper. I took my family out to see it, and we didn't see that specific event. But what we did see were lights moving, almost spaced, and then like there was like a light would move along. It would reach a part in the sky. It would disappear. It would seem like it would fly behind or into something. There was no mountain, there was no cloud. It would just disappear. When it came out of the other side of this space, it had blinking lights and it had some sort of a structure, almost like it passed through some sort of a portal, if you will, that changed its appearance. And so, the description that was given by the mayor, I've seen here in Phoenix. And so, again, that idea that, again, forces us to look at the phenomena outside of the parameters that the restrictions that we place on the phenomena, right? How many times do you talk to people, Rob, on the show who are investigators or researchers that are researching so that they can reinforce a theory that they have? And any evidence or details that don't reinforce that theory, they discard.
Confirmation bias.
There you go.
So it has to be so blatantly bizarre, for lack of a better word, to us, that it forces us to remove those restrictions we've placed on the phenomena.
Yep.
Okay. I like that. And yeah, and I'm glad you described that. So coming out the other side of this void in the sky, coming out physical essentially on the other side, blinking lights. Now the blinking lights thing is another thing that I like to point out, and
Yeah.
this is just because it's a skeptic argument, or it's a way to discount what's being seen because it'll immediately be used as, hey, it's blinking in its FAA pattern, so that
Mhm.
means it is not anything anomalous, but it doesn't. Y- y- You have, here's one thing I thought of one day. Maybe it means nothing, but I'm just looking at the perspective of, if we looked down on a planet, if we came from space and into the atmosphere, we're looking down at the ground of this planet, and we see the day-to-day going ons of whatever species is down there. I, when we think about these blinking lights, that's, they see pretty much everywhere around the world blinking and flashing lights. And maybe
Mhm.
they think that's a way to communicate with us. Maybe they
Mhm.
feel like
Right.
they use that so much that maybe we should use that, and that'll be the way we can communicate. But people don't think like that. They're just like, okay, it's blinking lights, so that means it's ours, and let's move on. And I think
Yeah.
that's a big mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone,
Before it became, too dangerous and against the law in many states, to not use lasers when we were doing, sky watches, CE5s. We literally would point our laser at a place in the sky that we were sure weren't, there were no airplanes or anything, and just do like 3 blinks. And then we do 3 blinks. We do 3 blinks. And in that mindset, in circle, we've become very coherent, mind and heart. We're in a high vibrational state. Signal, signal, signal. And pretty soon, from nothing up there, not even a star, would come 3 blinks back.
Yeah.
3 blinks back. And so, and we knew that we were communicating. Now, of course, we don't use lasers that much, just because there's so much air traffic that we don't want to harm anybody. But, you could do it with anything. You do it with your mind.
Mhm.
I can go outside right now and just say, wow, thank you. I wish you would just say hi. And suddenly there'll be a power up, there'll be a flash bulb, there'll be something going across the sky that doesn't have any nav lights. So I think they're trying to give us new ways to verify that we're communicating,
Mhm.
right?
And
And then
that's
too, I will say, they've always used what look like airplanes or birds or whatever to get our attention, to look at a certain part of the sky,
Mhm.
and then there will be. So
Yeah, and I'll say too, kind of Rob, about the comment around, we're not as advanced as them, and I think Deb, you said, Straber was saying that, we may be as advanced.
mhm.
I think that the capacity for human ingenuity puts us intellectually and imaginatively at the same level as they are.
Mhm.
Again, the same way we restrict what we understand about the phenomena, we restrict ourselves, right?
Oh, that's a
And
huge
so,
point. Absolutely.
and so we may be just as capacitive for advancement and enlightenment as they are. We just can't get out of our own way.
Oh, huge
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah, I
Can't get
agree.
out of
I
our
agree.
mind's way.
I agree. That makes total sense, because I always said, there's so many that talk about their experiences, and they hold these extraterrestrials as things that should be above us, that they should be looked at as deities almost in some sort of way. And I'm just looking at them as like, I think if you were to sit down with one of these, whenever this day happens, that you will find out, once you absorbed things that they may know that you don't know, that you'll get to a point to where you'll find out that they actually don't even know everything, and they're still trying to figure it all out, just like we are.
Mhm.
And we're kind of in the same situation. And we're going to go ahead and get ready to go to our last break of the night with our guests here, Deb Shakti, Josh Rutledge from Transcendence, getting into some really great conversations, guys. Get your questions ready for the last 30 minutes right here, Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show. We will be right back after the break. right. We are clear. And yeah. So great conversation, guys. It's been going awesome. Everything I thought it would be and more. And for everybody else out there, get your questions ready. I got a couple that I went ahead and tagged already. Join the conversation. Say what's on your mind. We would love to know, and put it in question form. Ask a great question, and yeah, you'll be part of the conversation. So appreciate you guys. Choosy Heretics choose Carnation Revolution now. Wow, that's a
That is
mouthful.
a long name.
And we do appreciate you coming on in as well tonight. Cat's Tongue 96. Hey, we appreciate you showing up. Paul Demond. Hey, I see you out there. Thanks for coming on in. Let's see. Bomber. I see you, Bomber. Thanks for coming in. Who else is joined us here recently? I saw W33. W33. Appreciate you coming in. And I saw you said you liked the intro, W. Which one? You said I like the intro to your show. Which one? This channel, my other channel, both channels? Let me know. Appreciate you showing love though. Lynn Lucas, thanks for coming on in. Appreciate you showing on up. Let's see who else. Who else is snuck in here? Who has snuck on in under the radar? Blue Cruise, thanks for coming in. Carl Bittner, hi, you Rob, and all you Spacey After Hours spaced out peeps. Appreciate you, Carl Bittner, as always. Thanks for coming in tonight. Jorgen Johansson, never experienced anything, but I've been curious since I was around 14, 15 and read Von Daniken 62 now. Okay, nice. This is all about discovery. You know, it's no one knows everything, and it's like why we always have these conversations, because you learn something new every day. We all do. It's amazing, it's inspiring, and it's I just love it. I love it. I really do. Let's
Hey,
see.
Rob, can I give a shout out to somebody?
Oh, yes.
I just wanted to point out, Susan Alway is always on such a big fan. For those who don't know her, she had an abduction case that came out and that I worked on, and it was called the Jackrabbit abduction case. It was MUFON's case of the year last year. She this week sent me as a thank you gift for being on her memory retrieval team a T-shirt with a jackrabbit jumping through portals. I just wanted her to see I'm wearing the T-shirt. Thank you so much, Susan.
Nice.
So cool.
Nice. I'd love to hear that story, Susan Alloway. So if you want to come on the show, let me know and let's set it up.
Oh man, you need to have her on. It's an incredible tale.
Yeah, I would love to. Susan, you let me know and we'll do it. My email afterhours@spacedoutradio.com. All right, Miss Catherine, I see your question there. I went ahead and tagged it. And let me check for any other questions here. Andromedan, I see you sort of had a question. I'll tag it still because I think it's relevant and we should talk about it. And let's see. Okay, that is it so far. Cielo Azul, thank you for coming on in. I see you just snuck in. All right, we got about a minute left. Once again, a minute. That's enough time for you guys to go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already done that. That would be awesome. Let us know that you like the show. Let's hit 100 before the end of the show. I don't know where we're at. I can't see it. I'm not going to look either. But I'm just going to hope and manifest 100 as the number or higher before we finish this show. So be awesome. Be the awesome one that you are, and hit that button and let us know that you like the show. We got about 15 seconds left here before we go. Pat's tongue giving me that in the chat. Okay. Yeah, that's a way to let me know. I appreciate that. So we got about 5 seconds left, and here we go. All right, everybody, welcome. Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours radio show, back end of the second hour with our guest here. We only have 23 minutes left with our guest. Make sure you get your questions in. I got a few questions tagged. Also, we'll be talking about some other stuff. I appreciate everything that you guys do for the Spaced Out Radio After Hours radio show. And always remember, if you missed anything that we've talked about so far, jump in the archive, 100% free, youtube.com/@spacedoutradio. As we go ahead and get back into the conversation, before we actually jump into the questions, I did want to kind of get your opinion on the whistleblowers that have come out here recently. We have Jake Barber, who we saw the epic video on the interview, but it turned out that he wasn't the actual pilot that retrieved that item. So, look at that, how you like. But he did show images of an egg-shaped craft that he took pictures of. And apparently he is working for a contractor that I hope we get the name of soon, because, for the way that I saw this was and how big this moment was. Before I say this, a lot of people looked at the interview and they said, it wasn't really anything. And I'm like, I think sometimes our expectations, we set them too high going into these things, and we're expecting them to bring out the baby extraterrestrial or to sit in front of us and talk. And then when it's not that, then they're like, it's nothing burger. But if you look at what happened in this interview, we got a whistleblower who flew in a helicopter that was involved in retrieving craft on behalf of a contractor that was contracted through the United States government. It is literally the smoking gun to the only next step, which is knowing who the contractor is and then knocking on their door to go see said retrieve craft. What did you guys think about Jake Barber coming out, and how did you feel about it?
Well, as I said, go ahead, John. Here we go again.
No, I went first last time. You go ahead.
Okay. I said it earlier in the show. I have mixed feelings about it. There were some things that, like, them kind of making out that he was the helicopter pilot in that video, and he wasn't. There's a little bit of spectacularism there, but I'm so empathetic, and I'm very psychic. And when he started talking about the consciousness piece, I felt he was forthright there. And whether he is part of the whole misinformation kind of scrambled eggs kind of agenda or not, that part felt very valid to me. And what was so exciting for me about that is hardly anybody up till recently has talked about the consciousness piece. It's all about the nuts and bolts. And this is what I've been waiting for. Let's talk about who it is, how it feels. Talk about how it feels to have this contact, because it is overwhelming and sometimes very confusing and often beautiful or terrifying. We need to talk about that part of it. I don't know that I would call it a smoking gun yet. I think it's little pieces building up to that, though. And I hope, I'm like you, I hope he does come forth with that contractor. And if he does, that may just break the whole thing open. So.
Yeah. What do you think, Josh? What were your views on this?
So I would agree that I think Barber was genuine in his testimony, as a part of the interview. I think he was also very genuine, and again, like Deb said, in his talking about he didn't need to add the consciousness piece to the interview, but he felt it necessary to do so. So that's, again, very genuine. I think y'all had a round table. You talked about it. I couldn't make it, but I sent you my thoughts after the fact, which was they showed a video that he was not on record discussing. I thought that was a red flag. Not to necessarily call the video into question, but even if it wasn't him in the video, it would have still been nice to have him say, "Oh yeah, this is similar to my experience transporting the egg." That enough, even though he couldn't have been able to, verify or validate the video itself, just to be able to look at it and then respond and say, "Yes, this is similar to my experience," would have, I think, strengthened his case or the case that News Nation was trying to present.
Yeah.
But I also will, this has been my argument from the get-go, is that this is a chess game, and this is just another piece on the board that is getting moved. And the public response is another piece on the board. And so in playing this piece and moving this piece, the public response is moved as well, thus leading to whatever, the end result is that people are trying to achieve. I've also said on this show and other shows in the past, for me, disclosure happened in 2018, when the Pentagon said, "Yep, those videos are ours." And I don't think we'll ever really get the State of the Union type announcement that people might be looking for from the government saying, "We've been retrieving crashed UFOs for 70 years, and here's what we know." So I think that all of this is there's an air of, or my gut says that there's an air of, there's some sort of a hidden agenda with all of this. And again, the public response is just a piece that's on this game board that's being manipulated and played towards the achievement of that, whatever that end goal is. And I don't have a strong feeling that that end goal is for the benefit of us, which is why I think, like we said earlier in the show, open contact is so near and coming, because those, kind of enlightened beings that are contacting us, that are visiting us, they see that this is not leading towards us gaining insight into our origins or what we are as a species.
Okay, I like that. And I had the same thoughts as you both as we broadcast the event live and gave live commentary. One of the things, and I didn't actually find out until after that show, that he wasn't actually the one who retrieved that particular object we saw in the video. And so when I verified that, I was like, wow, that is really, really weird. Like, why would News Nation present this as if he was the pilot that retrieved this crap? And then so I went down a thought process. I'm like, it had to be done for a reason, because normally a misstep like that would not occur unless it was potentially purposely done. And then when I thought about that, I'm like, okay, well, what would make sense? Why would someone do that? And one of the things I thought of, I was like, okay, either he was the pilot and they don't want to say that he is, as to protect him, because when we talk about the level of disclosure this would be if verified, and the video still has to be vetted and verified for me to go 100% in on that, just the starters. But if this happens to be video of crash retrieval, that is literally almost at the highest level of potential disclosure that you can get, aside from being inside that contractor and looking at the object yourself. So for me, it felt like, was it presented this way for safety, for the safety of the person involved. And okay, and that could go two ways, because it could be like, okay, they're trying to protect Jake Barber. He actually was the pilot, but they're just not wanting to tie him to that for his own safety. Or is it potentially that the person that actually retrieved it, same situation, where you don't want to give that person's name or bring that person out yet because of the amount of dysfunction it would probably confuse or create at those facilities where this thing is being held. Because if you're in those back programs and you see this broadcast come on and you see a former employee of yours that has retrieved some of these items and he's on the news, national news, you have to have some sort of fear, and you need to implement a plan immediately to stop this. You're like, okay, they're literally at the door at this point. One more step, they're in the house. So what do we do to counteract that? And maybe it's a waiting game for the protection. That's the only thing I could think of, because I didn't think that they would purposely present this in the way that they did unless they were doing it for some sort of reason. And that's just kind of,
there is another possibility too. And that is that they obtained the video after they conducted the interview.
Yeah.
So they didn't have an opportunity to respond to the video because they didn't have it yet.
Yeah.
Because I will say that it did seem, the inclusion of the retrieval video seemed out of place in the overall flow of the presentation.
Right.
So it really felt like it was a last minute add-in. They thought, where's the best place to put this? They kind of shoved it in there. So maybe they have vetted the video. I don't know. But even if they have, that may be why Barber didn't respond, because when they interviewed him, they didn't have the video.
Yeah. Well, and two, I found that odd because Ross Coulthard is so meticulous with his work. Meticulous. I can't see him making that big a gaffe unless there was some reason. And I think we'll find out what the reason was. But and as you say, maybe for the safety of the real pilot, or it's kind of a discombobulation so flak doesn't fly too much at Jake, or or whomever it was. Right. But that's the part that I say feels off for me. So we'll see.
I can agree. And the thing that did make me connect with them was the consciousness piece. And I spoke about that. I think we did a show the very next day. And I told everyone, I was like, that's a common theme that we hear with experiencers. They talk about how this experience changed them and how they felt this connection. And once again, it was something he didn't have to include unless he actually felt that. So we know that what he felt or the experience he had was likely authentic. And I like to use the word likely because we can't say for sure until this all gets flushed out. But the thing is that when we hear testimony from people like David Grush and others that have stated that they have been threatened with their lives for having way less information or being way less connected to these secret programs, that you figure the higher you go up that chain and the people you bring in are going to be even more at risk. If there was ever a time that they would try to off somebody in to protect disclosure from happening, you would think it would be these guys that are right next to the actual contractors and people in those programs. And if this guy gets vetted out and appears to be what he is one of those guys that would be a high level target, I would think. And you have to take steps to protect a person like that.
Absolutely.
And that's just the only logical thing I could think of is why they would have done it that way. But as you said, Debs, time will tell, and we'll kind of be able to get through this process. Now, there was another whistleblower. I don't know. Did you guys see Fred Baker? Fred Baker?
I have not seen the Fred Baker thing. The one thing I want to say, though, the other thing before we leave Jake Barber's thing and the News Nation broadcast, The other thing they brought up is something they never talk about or admit to, and that is the fact that they are using what they called psionic, right?
Yeah.
They're using people with the psi gifts to help communicate with these beings, with these craft. And we know, all of us in here know that's how we do it. We're we connect with them telepathically from the heart, and that's how we make successful contact. But that's the very first time in any interview I've ever seen that brought up. And so again, they're inserting stuff that we've known for a long time for the very first time in these new crash retrieval things. So,
And along with that, I'll say that the method that they showed being used, where you have a blindfold, almost like a deprivation chamber that you create for yourself, that was brought to light a few years ago when the TV show Hellier, when they were doing the Estes method, right? For contacting spirits or whatever, So again, if you're aware of those things, you'll see that it bridges the gap between UFO and consciousness and paranormal and consciousness,
medium,
and maybe really, I think, bridges those two together.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's fascinating.
It was awesome the way that you did that, because you kind of brought it back to where it needed to be, and that makes total sense. Pointing out the fact that they were using that method, and I've always said, pointing to the fact that that's why I feel like because of that the government knows that we have these other abilities that are being suppressed, and they know that we have them, and and so knowing that, we know that those things that we'll be able to access at some point on our own. Some of us already do it, but before I ask that, we had a couple questions. Before I get to those questions, I just wanted to point out on that whole contractor side that I wonder the day that the contractors get that knock at the door, those actual people who are involved and engaged in keeping the secret, and their backs are now against the wall, they have to answer the door. I just wonder what they're going to do in that moment. It just is something I think about. And I wonder if you have situations where the secret is so deep, they unalive themselves in some cases. Some people just like, I can't stand up to the ridicule and the pressure, the scrutiny that I'm going to have to face to stand in front of the world to say, I've kept this secret from you, or I was a part of keeping this secret from you. And I'm just wondering, because we're so close to that moment, that you just have to wonder what's going to go through the minds of those people. I know the pressure is on right now. They have to feel it. They're probably trying to move things around in the background. And I'm almost sure that somebody is watching them at this moment, because we're just so close to that moment. It's just something I thought of. You could comment on it if you have one. And then we'll move to the questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think the feeling that I get is that for the contractor to come forward, it would be a breach of some, contract that they hold. But if a whistleblower gives the information away and then they are contacted, it is not a breach. So it's like I can't tell you the answer, but if you ask me the right question, I'll tell you what the answer is.
I'll nod yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so let me we have a couple questions here. We have Miss Catherine Jones asking, do you think the documentary Elizondo is releasing in March is the government's disclosure? The trailer is quite convincing. I haven't seen that. Have you guys seen that? Is that the Dan Farah documentary she might be talking about? The one coming out with Jay Stratton, where he makes that statement of seeing craft and extraterrestrials?
I have not seen that trailer yet, so I can't speak to it, but I will go look for it right away.
Yeah. It's called The Age of Disclosure is the name of the document. Apparently he filmed it in total secret. No one knew he was filming it the last few years, and he has all these big names in it. And they have Jay Stratton on there saying a clip saying, I seen extraterrestrials and extraterrestrial craft. I think it was probably edited, but I don't know. But that might be what you're talking about, Ms. Catherine. We don't know yet. We have the Andromedan asking, do the off-worlders use AI or different types of AI? An open question for the guests. Do you think they're using AI?
I think in some cases they are AI. I think that our own development of AI is just another trigger for us to really evaluate how we think about consciousness.
Yeah, I do too. It's us taking one set of training wheels off and moving up a size on our bicycle, basically, towards complete, mind to mind, heart to heart communication. But
The
AI,
whole idea,
it's just the natural progression.
Yeah.
Right?
The whole name artificial intelligence is, technically we might be considered artificial intelligence to some other species. So,
Precisely.
All right.
Which is what we talk about on the third podcast, Transcendence.
Right.
That's so cool.
Stay tuned.
That is actually a great segue because we have one question and I want you guys to finish up talking about Transcendence. So the Andromedan also asked, how could they not know their billions and billions of years old advancements than this collective? Maybe that they're more billions of years more advanced than us, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we just don't know. We can't know. Right? Are they 10 years ahead of us? Are they billions of years ahead of us? It's hard to know.
It's also possible that they're transdimensional and they've developed alongside of us. And so their technology is different than ours, but maybe, I think we have to break down what we mean by advanced. Is it
precisely
to have advanced technology? Does that mean that they have advanced consciousness, or that they have advanced intellectual capacity, or they have advanced spirituality? Just the ability to develop technology does not necessarily mean that you're an advanced species.
Great answer.
We develop some pretty awesome technology, but yet we still kill each other. So
bingo.
Great answer. And I want to give you guys a list of 2 minutes left. If you could, let's talk about Transcendent. Where can people find it? And let's get them there.
Yep. So youtube.com/Mystic Journeys 44 get you to the channel. There's a playlist for Transcendence podcast. That's where you can listen. Subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. You'll see the notifications whenever new episodes come out. Like I said, it's also available as an audio format, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and working on getting it into all the other places that I can to try to make it available, because the idea really is to reach as many people as possible in hopes that they'll hear something that'll cause them to reevaluate their reality and go from there. And
lift up. And also, Josh, you created Transcendence podcast, a page on Facebook.
Yes.
And I started this week putting those episodes on there too.
Cool.
It's a place where people can come and have conversations after the fact if they like about those episodes. A place where they can kind of and debate.
You can leave comments on the episode itself on YouTube, whatever the case may be. We really would like to hear your feedback, because we try to fit a lot into a short period of time, and it doesn't mean we can't revisit a topic if somebody makes a really good point or expands our understanding of whatever it is that we're talking about, because we're all here to kind of learn and influence each other and trying to reach that ultimate enlightened state of our kind of existence.
Right. We're all here to help each other along. As Ram Dass said, we're all walking each other home, right? Yeah. We're all just walking each other home.
And that's a good place to put a period on it. You guys are awesome. I can't wait to see this show grow. And also, we're obviously going to have you back on as many times as I can get you. So we'll be having you back here and kind of furthering the narrative, moving the needle, which is what we do. And we do this here on Spaced Out Radio. And once again, over at the Social Dig. So make sure you guys go subscribe at all places. Debs, Josh, thanks for coming in. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Conversations that move the needle.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, Rob.
After Hours with Mr. Rob G on the only place where you can own the night. Spaced Out Radio.
Spaced Out Radio. You've tuned your dial to the right frequency.
All right, guys. See you in about 5 minutes for hour 3. Don't go anywhere. right, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3, guys. It's been an awesome show so far. We're going to have an awesome hour 3 with Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Mr. Person Mysteries, and we're going to get into After Hours wrap-up with none other than Drew Banky. Here we go. We got about 5 seconds left. Get ready. Let's go. All right, everyone, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio After Hour number 3, the third and final hour with me, your host, Mr. Rob G. And we're going to have an awesome third hour because we got Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries coming up, and then also our guy, Drew Banky, with the After Hours wrap-up. Maybe some UFO and weird news right here on Spaced Out Radio After Hours radio show. If you missed anything, make sure you guys hop in the archive. YouTube.com/Spaced Out Radio. As we go ahead and get into some of the Steve Stockton Tales Untold. We love having Steve Stockton part of the show, and we're going to jump right on into it. Here we go.
Welcome to Tales Untold and Missing Persons Mysteries on Spaced Out Radio's After Hours. My name is Steve Stockton, and I'm here to take you on a journey of mysteries, legends, and true stories. Come, join me on this strange adventure of Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries. George Lee Mallory and Andrew Sandy Irvine went missing from Mount Everest in 1924. Two British mountaineers, George Lee Mallory and Andrew Sandy Irvine, disappeared while trying to reach the summit of Mount Everest. Mallory was an accomplished rock climber who had demonstrated his abilities as a high-altitude climber on previous expeditions to Everest in 1921 and 1922. On the other hand, Irvine lacked experience in Himalayan and high-altitude climbing, but was skilled at repairing the oxygen equipment used by the British climbers at high elevations. Mallory made 2 unsuccessful attempts to climb above 28,125 feet without extra oxygen, but during his third expedition, he understood their benefits. Irvine's skills in repairing equipment and his lightweight oxygen system played a vital role. Regrettably, their oxygen tanks proved to be unreliable, with a total of 38 leaks occurring that year. On June 6, 1924, Mallory and Irvine began their climb from the top of North Col at 23,100 feet after having 10 sardines for breakfast. Their objective was to reach the summit within 3 days, and they borrowed a camera from Howard Somerville. Noel Odell, a geologist, spotted Mallory and Irvine climbing the second step of the mountain skyline on June 8. Despite being at a lower altitude than anticipated, Odell was confident that they would reach the summit. However, a snow squall hit the upper slopes, and upon reaching the high camp, Odell discovered fragments of oxygen equipment in Mallory and Irvine's tent. Irvine was getting their oxygen canisters ready before embarking on their summit attempt. Regrettably, Odell never laid eyes on them again. Odell spent the entire night searching for any signs of life above him when he returned to the North Col. Unfortunately, he did not find any. It took him 2 days to climb back to Mallory and Irvine's last camp, but he had little hope of finding his fellow climbers. No one had returned to the tent, which forced the expedition to accept that Mallory and Irvine were gone forever. The summit was thought to be close at hand before news of their tragic end was revealed. They had set out from Camp 6, situated at a height of 26,700 feet, and were steadily making their way towards their goal. With their expertise, it was expected that they would exceed the previous record of 28,000 feet. Dr. Theodore Howard Somerville, who personally achieved an altitude of 28,000 feet on Mount Everest, stated that the air is very thin at 27,000 feet. To move even one step forward, one must take 10 deep breaths due to the lack of oxygen. Dr. Somerville explained that the fatigue experienced when taking a single step is similar to that of running a 100-yard dash at top speed at sea level. After Mallory and Irvine's failed expedition, there were doubts about the possibility of humans reaching the peak of Everest. Nevertheless, others persisted, knowing it was impossible to survive on the summit without artificial air. During the 1930s, emergency flares and a functioning torch were found at Mallory's campsite. It's possible that Mallory forgot these items, which could have been used to signal his companions for help later on. In 1999, Eric Simonson led an expedition that discovered Mallory's body at a height of 8,155 meters. However, Irvine's body and Somerville's camera, which Mallory had borrowed, are still missing somewhere on the slopes of Everest. Mark Sinnott, the author who participated in a 2019 expedition led by Jamie McGuinness from New Zealand to uncover the mystery, discloses in his book, The Third Pole, that the Chinese might have discovered the remains of Irving and the camera and then concealed the evidence. Next up, Gunther Messner went missing from Nanga Parbat in 1970. In 1970, Gunther and Reinhold Messner, a pair of brothers, endeavored to climb Nanga Parbat, the ninth tallest mountain in the world. This towering peak stands at an impressive 27,000 feet. That's 8,125 meters above sea level, situated at the western edge of the Himalayas. Known as the Mountain of Destiny, it has claimed the lives of many climbers who have attempted to scale its treacherous heights. An article by Betsy Reed in The Guardian shared the story of the two brothers who successfully reached the summit but ran out of food and water. Unfortunately, one of the brothers, Gunther, suffered from altitude sickness and hallucinations, which led to his disappearance during the climb. There have been allegations that Reinhold Messner left his brother behind. However, Reinhold said both were descending the western Diamar face of the mountain when Gunther vanished. Reinhold continued the descent, but Gunther, already weak and lagging behind, was probably carried away by a massive avalanche. Reinhold sustained frostbite during the climb, losing 7 toes and a few fingertips. Max von Kindlen and Hans Soller, who were part of the climbing expedition, later wrote books in Germany claiming that Reinhold instructed his brother to descend the risky Ruppal flank even though they had almost died while climbing it. As per reports, Reinhold left his unwell brother behind to descend via an unknown western route on Diamar's face to become the first person to complete the descent. Some people have criticized Reinhold for prioritizing his ambition over his brother's safety. Reinhold took legal action against the two climbers and their publishers and insisted that he had done nothing wrong. He returned to Nanga Parbat a year after his brother's passing to look for the body, but found no evidence. He returned once more in 2000 to make a documentary about the journey and wrote a book detailing the agony he had been experiencing since then. In 2005, the remains of Gunther were discovered in the snow on Nanga Parbat. He was found wearing clothes and shoes halfway up the mountain. Reinhold's friend expressed joy upon hearing the news. He said, "We now have proof that Reinhold was correct." He also stated that most of the climbing community believed Reinhold's claims. With this discovery, he insisted any doubts or accusations circulated for years could be put to rest. The location of the remains matches Reinhold's statement that he didn't abandon Gunther on the mountain, but instead he was swept away by an avalanche. Hubert Messner, Reinhold's other brother, expressed great relief as the family could not communicate with Reinhold directly since he was in Pakistan and lacked access to a satellite phone. In 1980, Reinhold Messner made the first solo ascent of Mount Everest and, along with Peter Habeler, the first ascent of Everest without supplemental oxygen. Next, we have John Sturkey, who went missing from the San Jacinto Mountains in 2019. John Sturkey, a 55-year-old electrician, went on a solo adventure on January 4th, 2019, without informing anyone of his intentions. After a month, it was discovered through his phone records that he had traveled to the San Jacinto Mountains, which was approximately 90 miles northeast of his home. Authorities traced this information to a distressing 911 call. While searching for her missing husband, Teresa Sturkey received assistance from Kathy Tarr. It was discovered that John's truck had become stuck on a rough road near the Fuller Ridge trailhead. Fortunately, 3 men off-roading in the area that Saturday came to his aid and helped him get unstuck. Tarr spoke with these kind men a few months after the incident. As the darkness engulfed and snowfall began, John found himself stranded in his truck, running low on gas. Tarr kindly offered him a ride, but John refused, explaining that he needed camping gear or winter clothes. He politely requested not to call for help, but they disregarded his request and dialed 911. However, the operator categorized the situation as a disabled vehicle instead of a rescue emergency because the men had mentioned that John did not ask for help. By daybreak, there was a considerable amount of snowfall, approximately 9 inches. John's cell phone pings prompted the Riverside County Sheriff's Department to get involved. Despite multiple helicopter searches, they were unable to locate his truck. Investigators informed Teresa Sturkey that he was likely not in the area. However, John King, a resident who manages the San Jacinto Trail Report website and has search and rescue experience, believed the truck was still out there. He searched for it and found it on March 15, wedged against a rock below the Fuller Ridge campground using snowshoes. The Sheriff's Department halted the search for John in April due to a lack of lead. King advised Teresa, John's spouse, to seek assistance from TAR, and they began regularly scouring the mountains for any evidence. They also coordinated 3 primary search efforts with the support of many volunteers. Teresa admits she kind of antagonized the Sheriff's Department. She added, "They kept trying to scare me from going to search, telling me it was too dangerous," she said. "What else am I going to do? You guys aren't going to look for him. I've got to do it." John's body was eventually found in a steep ravine on the northern slopes of the mountain range, and it took a helicopter to retrieve it. Teresa thinks he attempted to take the Pacific Crest Trail to safety, but missed a turn. He had removed his fleece jacket, knit cap, and some socks he was using as gloves, indicating that he was likely experiencing hypothermia. Those experiencing hypothermia may feel hot and shed their clothing. Finding him meant so much, Teresa said. Even though logically you know that they are deceased, there's a part of you, being a human being, that just hopes they're alive. But getting closure was a relief, especially for her children. She says, "The kids were so anxious. It was like the foundation of their life was dropped out from underneath them. The relief when I told them he had been found, you could see it in their bodies. You never realize what a gift a funeral is until you cannot find your loved one." Sadly, Teresa's hardships did not end when John's body was found. The coroner's office listed his date of death as June, not January, even though what was found in June was nothing more than a skeleton. Because of that, Teresa said her family almost lost out on months' worth of life insurance benefits. Death registration guidelines from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said, when a body has been found after a long period, the medical examiner or coroner should estimate the date and time of death as accurately as possible and put that estimate on the death certificate. Teresa alleged that officials repeatedly refused to give her copies of their reports, which she requested because she wanted to see what areas had already been searched and then later to file life insurance and benefit claims. She said some people at the Sheriff's Department were helpful, and she repeatedly stressed that she's grateful to the people who found her husband and sympathetic about how hard a job the police have. However, in that agency, she added, it feels like there's this culture of not helping.
All right, that is Steve Stockton Tales Untold, Missing Persons Mysteries. Once again, shout out to Steve Stockton. He has an awesome YouTube channel. Go over there and subscribe. Many more Tales Untold and Missing Person Mysteries is what you'll find there. We're going to go ahead and get ready to jump into the final part of the show, one of the final segments here, which is the After Hours wrap up with none other than our guy, Drew.
You're an irredeemable monster!
Come here, I'm going to eat you! Get in my belly!
Get him in the north! Get him north! Do it! That man's gone mad!
You're a monster!
Drew Banky's in the building with the After Hours wrap up. Drew, thanks for joining us. Awesome as ever. How you been, man? What's going on?
Nothing much. Just living life, brother. You know, just doing my thing. Living my life.
Okay. So with the wrap up, I know you Deb's good friend of both of ours, and I know it's always awesome when she comes on. Josh Rutledge as well. How did you enjoy the conversation? What did you take away from it? Anything you wanted to point out specifically?
No, just as always, it's a great conversation, you know, with Debs and Josh. And yeah, I'm excited. I was excited to hear about their show, and I seen that they announced it a short while ago on the socials that that they were gonna collab and everything. But just to hear it broke down a little bit more, and yeah, I'm excited to listen to it. It's man, this is the time, and I think their show's gonna be answering those questions for some people, then and open some eyes for sure. They have a way of talking and discussing things that yeah, it was just a really interesting conversation with them, as always, and their takes on um the egg video and all that stuff. It's it's all spot on. So I was just shaking my head through a lot of the interview.
Yeah. As I said, in this space, when you look around and you look for things to view, because just because I host a few shows, which you can find right here on Space Out Radio, also over the Social Dig, youtube.com/at Mr. Rob G. I'm still a viewer of shows. I still, spend time off watching other people's shows, and and I've watched Transcendence, and I know that there's a need for a show like that in this field. It fills a void, even though there are so many other people out there talking about the topic. It's about the way the angle a show takes, right? And I think the angle that they have is a really good one and a needed one, and one that'll move the needle. It's like we have an angle on this show that's definitely unique from other experiences out there as well. So it's just beautiful to see people fill those voids because they're filling them for the right reasons. And when a person does go to view that, they're going to walk away, as I said earlier, with more than they came with, or at least the mind will be working and allowing them to kind of open themselves up to all sorts of other experiences.
Yeah. And the question comes up, what came first, the UFO or the egg? But in all seriousness, there's been a lot of stuff going on lately. It's a crazy world we're living in. And a lot of times it seems like we're almost living in a simulation. Just some stuff happened. This is so hard to believe, but and you already know my take. I think we're within the next couple of years of like a whole nother set of reality we're gonna have to deal with, like in our face, not just like talking about on the late night channels, but happening to all around the world very soon. So yeah, I just see proof of it more and more as the days go by, that just crazy things happen. We're just changing the name of mountains, changing the name of like oceans and stuff like that. It's just weird stuff when we're dealing with such different issues, and yeah, I was just I heard Rogan say something the other day that he's not political at all. But he is an American, like he is, and for the people. And I think that's what we need to like concentrate on right now. Like we need to get each other through this time. And if that means trying to figure out like breaking down their experiences and people having mystical experiences, I think Deb was right. Like I think when she first started talking, she was talking about people having more and more experiences now on all different scales, not just like UFOs, but like remembrances or dreams or whatever. And I think that's absolutely true, and I just see the wave coming, and I think it's unstoppable.
Yeah, well said, Drew, because I think that's exactly what it is. For me, it feels like we're in the and not in a negative way before I say this, but it feels like we're in the last days. And when I say the last days, I mean the last days of society as we've known it, or as it's always been. It appears just by the things you mentioned there, the different things that are changing, and just the whole landscape. When you just look around, so many weird things are happening in so many different places. Things you would have never thought were going to happen, and it appears that these are like the last efforts of society to kind of cork these things out, or kind of it. If you understand what I'm saying, it seems like the last days, which is a good thing, of this this machine that has controlled and suppressed humanity and human beings for all these years. I'm ready for it.
Did you hear this? The latest thing that the government's backing the AI program, the $500 million AI program, or whatever, the 1 billion or whatever it is.
Tell me about it.
Stargate. It's the name of it, Stargate. It's AI Stargate, and it's supposed to be now. It's funny because the administration that's in right now, when they were running, they were talking about being anti-vaccination, but this thing is a AI generated vaccination program that basically scans each person's body and gives them comes up with individual like vaccine that's specifically designed that the AI decides on, and that's the basis behind it. But it's called Stargate. Like this is the surface of it. Like that's about all I know about it. I haven't dug much more into it, but it's just so crazy. There's so many signs that I see setting from my perspective of things and watching things unfold, and it's awesome for me. Like but I can see it's scary for some people, but it's the signs are all there, people. It's gonna be. I don't think this is gonna go anywhere, like the whole AI vaccine type of thing, but I think the overall message put on a world stage, with the Operation Stargate, or the app Stargate, or whatever it's called. Like, but it's interesting name for it.
What it makes me feel when you talk about that and describe it, it makes me feel like the first thought that I had when you said that or described it was like the hybridization program for some reason, just like DNA harvesting or something along those lines. Like, you have to think, like, what is the ulterior motive for AI wanting to interact with the human like that? What would it be? What would be the real purpose? Now we know what they're saying, but what would be the nefarious way that it could be used, for nefarious intents? Because that's what humans like to do. Humans always find a way to take something cool and turn it into a weapon or some nefarious thing. So what do you think?
I have a theory. So I have it, and this ties in back to what Trump said during his initial speech. He's talking about we're going to Mars. Like that was like his one in his initial speech, when his first I think it was his first speech, or I don't know. I think it was first speech. Yeah, talking about going to Mars, and Elon's in the back like shaking his fist. I think this is what I think this is the angle that they're gonna do, or whatever. I think this is tied into it, that they're gonna say to get to Mars, they're gonna have to be manipulated through AI techniques. The human body is gonna have to be manipulated through AI to get to be able to survive that trip to Mars, and or survive on Mars.
Some sort of filtration process for human
that's
beings.
My theory. That's my theory. That's how they're gonna.
Here's the thing: it's when you are the gatekeeper to off planet for the ability to be off planet, you can make those sorts of rules, and I wouldn't put it past them. I did a show on Elon Musk, which kind of points some of those things out, and just the fact that how could you have one person that could be in control of so many aspects of potential humanity's potential future, and is that dangerous or is that not? Because I think the answer is probably the former, but we'll go ahead and get into some other stuff as we get ready to go into our final break of the night right here on the After Hours Radio Show with me, your host, Mr. Rob G, and my guy right there, Drew Banky, coming in with the After Hours wrap up. Guys, we do it like this every week. Make sure you tune in, stay right here at Spaced Out Radio, the After Hours Radio Show Got 30 minutes to go. We'll see you in a minute. All right, we are clear.
Why would they name it Project Stargate? Like, why would they? That's dude.
That's
It's
remote.
like
That's a remote viewing program, right? I don't know what the.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely tied in. The AI and the physical body is a crazy jump that that's it's not the only crazy jump. It's been a wild ride since the inauguration, but yeah, it's just one thing you got to realize, and I'm not saying I'm anti or pro Trump or Elon or any of that. One thing you do have to realize, like Elon, he was a business owner, mega millionaire, super smart, all this other stuff, keys to space, but now he's a politician, and you do have, and he's crossed a lot. Like this, you always have to question yourself with politicians. Like they're human too. Like, in all honestly, after the fact, they're all humans. And like, I do want to point out that fact when they're going through their own experience, but it's, they're part of the system now, and the system is a big beast. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Like it's a big thing. Like, and,
I went down a rabbit hole where when I did the Elon show over on my channel, where I was pointing some things out, and it's not just SpaceX, the gateway to space, the keys to space, as you just said, but we're also talking about Tesla bots. We're talking about robots. We're talking about artificial intelligence. We're talking about robots that have access to Starlink, which is global internet access, which means they have access to the entire informational database of the history of the world itself, as much information as we've ever accumulated or amassed. We have Neuralink, which down the line, and these things won't be threats immediately, but 100 years down the line, a Neuralink, if they can pre-program your chip or program your Neuralink chip, who knows what the implications of that could be when we talk about like super soldiers and things. Now, those would be real super soldiers. You could sit up and implant, and then think about this. Think about a pregnant woman with the Neuralink chip. Could you essentially program this fetus? Could you send information through the fetus? Because we know that information goes back and forth between the mother and the fetus anyways, just as part of the whole process. But now if you implement a chip now with the input, almost like the Matrix, but a little different, a little more scarier actually, what could you end up doing with that? And this is one person who owns all of this and controls it all. So the moment that this person decides to say, you know what, I'm done doing good for the world. Let me turn into a supervillain with that much control. Yeah, scary prospect.
It is, man. And that's why I said, like, when I said that I believe Trump's gonna be the last president, I believe it, man. And the signs are on the wall, and we're just in the beginning of this 4 years, and it's clear. I don't think it's gonna be. It'll be within the next 4 years, but I think it'll be 2 years or less, man. At the rate it's going right now, like there's already just the immigration thing. There's already like disagreements in between states and the states government and the federal government, man. Like I just see like escalation of this after a while. It could be, I'm not saying I have any information or anything like that. I'm just saying like I could see where a civil war could be a possible thing.
Dude, we are in the moment where disclosure is truly needed. And the beautiful thing about it all is I feel like we're on the cusp of it. I feel like we're right there. So this disclosure might be one of those buzzer beater moments where
Yeah.
at the moment when you thought the world was going to turn to crap, disclosure kicked in and saved the day and saved humanity. And I think that's what it is. That's why I was saying earlier with Debs and Josh that it feels like for me the stuff that's been happening lately within this community, like a radio was static, and it's static every day, and then all of a sudden one day you hear a voice over the static and you're like, oh, and at that moment, how you would feel in that moment. But here we come. We're coming back in 5 seconds here. All right, everybody, welcome back. Spaced Out Radio, after hour number 2.5, last half of last hour. It's been an awesome show so far. We had our guests, Deb Shakti, Josh Rutledge from Transcendence, a show you need to check out. We got Drew Banky here with the After Hours wrap-up, Steve Stockton. It's been an awesome show. Make sure if you missed any of it, hop in the archive, youtube.com/@SpacedOutRadio. So we go ahead and get ready to get to the half of the show here. So a couple things, Drew, I wanted to bring up here. So the drone thing, right? Drones. Okay, we were talking about it heavily about a month ago. It was in actually the national news, global news every day. Okay, then it kind of went away. We all of a sudden the holidays come and we come back from the holidays and no one's talking about it. We moved on to something else. Well, it was recently shown, and I actually did a show on this earlier today. The New Jersey mayor came out. He was interviewed on News Nation. Well, shout out to News Nation, first of all, just for being the only outlet out there that really takes this thing seriously and is really trying to get the message out to the people. But the New Jersey mayor was on News Nation, and he essentially said that, yes, these drones are still up there. Trump says, yes, he hopes he's going to do something about it, and he's optimistic that Trump will do something and get the answers. And then in the midst of that conversation, he also goes on to say that has been dealing with the videographer out of Long Island, which I think is the Tedesco brothers. I may be mistaken, but I know they were supposed to work together. They have a research lab, a mobile research lab. But he states that he got with the videographer who had captured data on these drones, and he was seeing in these videos lights that would essentially be like orb lights in the sky. And he saw, as they would get closer, he said they would transform. He used the word transform into like these physical drone sort of objects with blinking lights. And, we kind of touched on a little bit of that when it was all going on back in December, the fact that, hey, as we were going down that thought road, like, hey, could it be that these extraterrestrial craft, which we always see as orbs or anomalous things, are manifesting themselves and turning into what we're seeing as far as these mechanical drones? A lot of people said no, because they're mechanical, there means they're man-made. But you have the New Jersey mayor saying that he's seen on this video these lights all of a sudden transform into the physical things. With that new information, how do you look at what has been going on? Like, how do you now look at the drone situation and the fact that it still hasn't been resolved, and it's just as pretty much just as hectic as it was before the holidays?
Yeah, I know the video you're talking about, and I have other stuff to bring to the table for that. I'm leaning more towards that it is off planet. Okay, so day Trump got sworn in, he went back to the Oval Office. He was signing some whatever, the executive orders or whatever. At right towards the end of it, one of the reporters asked him about the drones, the drone situation, and when it was if it was going to be addressed, because he talked about it in interviews that after he was elected and everything. He said, I think even on Rogan, that when he got in office, he was gonna let the people know about UFOs. He was gonna let he talked specifically about the drone situation that they know. and this is after he was elected, but before he was inaugurated. So that means he was already privy to the daily briefings and security briefings, stuff like that. So he talked about on Rogan that the government knows. He doesn't know why they're not talking about it. So when that interview said, he was told the lady named Susie, some type of chief of staff, said, look into it. That was the day he was inaugurated, on the 20th. Here we sat on the 25th. We really haven't heard anything more about it. I think he was asked again in an interview or something after that, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I can't remember. But anyways, my point is, if it was nothing, it would have been, he was inaugurated on the 20th. We would have heard about it we would have heard something by now. Like there's something they're trying to write it up to and deliver it to us so we can swallow it, or, redact whatever they have to, or, it's going to be a heavily redacted something that we come out with. And I think the same thing on the JFK, MLK, and RFK files when they come out. I think they're going to be heavily redacted too. That's been how they work. They release things, but half of it's black. They redact things with a paintbrush, and not with a marker, but a paintbrush. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. And I don't know, but I think getting back to the UFO basis of it, and there's the fires going on over in California. There's another thing Trump just said that's really suspect, is in an interview that he said he doesn't want to say what it looks like on the ground, what these fires come from, but it's really bad, and we'll find out about it eventually, or something like that. Like, what is he talking about? I've heard some rumors that some of the fires over there are connected to terrorist attacks, but could he be talking about direct energy? That's what I'm wondering. Like, could he be talking about direct energy weapons from satellites from other countries? Not from off planet, but direct energy weapons. So there's just all types of crazy things going on, and I would love if your theory come true. And I could see a lot of basis of it being the time that our star brothers and sisters have to intervene in this moment, because the way we're going right now, it's we're only 25 days into, we got 320 days left, or 340 days left, and it's a lot of days considering where we went so far since the first.
I'm feeling like, and I'm with you on that. And yeah, as far on the Trump situation, when he was asked about that, and that when he was signing executive orders on Monday, I believe the 20th is what that was, he definitely, to me, and maybe other people see this too, when he was asked about it, he was like, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we definitely want to know what those are. I mean, it's, you would think if they were adversarial, we definitely would have shot them down. But prior to coming into office, his demeanor was more like, oh, we know what those are. Essentially, like, they know what they are, and they should tell everybody, because they know what they are. And to your point, he was also getting the briefings at the time. So my whole thing was, and the question that I had asked myself in the audience, my earlier show was is it a situation where, like with those files, JFK, MLK, RFK files, and then UFO disclosure, like any other previous president, because we got to remember JFK was potentially unalive because a week or so earlier he said he was going to look into the UFO topic. And are those people in those black project, or not really black projects, but shadow government, in those secret rooms, do they come in and say, okay, well, which we know that they do to other presidents, or at least on the releasing the JFK files, we know that they likely have, because the people who have come in and said they were going to do something, regardless really what it was, it always changes when they get in office. And we think it's because people in those secret rooms get to the president and say, hey, no, you're not going to do that. And
Right.
I think maybe that's kind of what happened here, or what may happen here if it hasn't already. That which will just really go to further the fact that disclosure would never come from the government. So it's either right now going to come from Trump because he said he was going to do it, or it's absolutely not going to come from the government like we've always thought, because the people who've always stood in the way are going to stand in the way. But to kind of go a little further on that, I was talking earlier about the black projects and just kind of where we are with this because of the latest whistleblower, Jake Barber. So he comes out, and the video they show isn't his video of his retrieval, but he shows images of things. He talks about his spiritual connection in some of those events, which kind of validates and makes what he's talking about real for other people like us, because we know what that means. But the question I was pondering and still are pondering is, why did they do that? And one of the theories we kicked around as we were talking earlier was the fact that maybe the person who took the video, and the reason why that person wasn't part of this broadcast or that interview, was because maybe they're protecting that person's identity. Because and the thing I pointed out is because when you get to that high level of disclosure where you're almost at the Black Project building, or where they are actually holding this stuff, that the risk level goes up more and more and more for a whistleblower. Excuse me. The risk goes up more and more and more for a whistleblower, and the risk becomes heavier as far as trying not to be unalived by these factions of the government that David Grush has come out and said are there and are threatening people that come out and talk. So I'm like, okay, well, are they protecting someone, the person that actually retrieved this crap? And then on the flip side of that, how would the moment that we get the next step, which is the actual facilities, how do those people within those facilities react once we're knocking at the door wanting to come in to actually see these craft? So that's kind of like two things in one, but I don't know if you caught all that.
Yeah, I mean, the first part of it, the fact that, and I caught that right away in the initial interview, that it was not not him, not Jake Barber, that actually was transporting the egg. So it was weird that they would do that. Why wouldn't they bring, if they're gonna show a video, like have the pilot that, or have the person, and obviously there's got to be more than just a pilot. It's not just a one person operation when you're flying a helicopter. You have, most of the time you have a co-pilot, and a crew chief or something like that. Especially if you got like if you're rigging something like that, I would assume like there's multiple people involved. So why wouldn't you have at least one person, from that, at least that crew, maybe not the pilot, or just someone from that crew, someone that lowered down the cable or something like that. So it's just that's very strange, and what does that mean? It could mean a ton of things, like, sad part about it is we probably will never find out, and I haven't seen the full interview. I know they released the full interview recently, and I haven't got a chance to see that. I don't know what other specifics come out of that. Have you seen the full release of that?
The full release of
the interview with Jake Barber.
Oh, no, I haven't seen it. The long form, 3-hour
the
interview.
long form.
Yeah. No, I want to see it though. I know I need to look at that, but I'm figuring that they probably took a lot of the key pieces and put it in the interview that we saw. And so I'm sure there's other information, but I think like probably the most important stuff they showed on the initial one. Is that correct? Did you see both?
Yeah, I haven't seen the long form yet, so I couldn't speak on that. But and the second part of the question, like, what would you do if you're working in those facilities and they showed up to, take a tour of senators through there or something like that? I don't know. Like, that's a loaded question. I haven't really ever thought about ever working in one of those facilities, so it'd be kind of hard to put myself in that position. And me personally, if they showed up, I'd be like, yeah, let's. I've been waiting for you to walk through this. But I couldn't put myself in the position of being indoctrinated like that to the point of being trusted in those spots. I'm sure, like, there's several layers of indoctrination to get to be able to be in one of those spots. So I don't know. It's hard to really answer that question.
And I just think that being so untouchable for all these years, being in those projects, after a while you start to feel like you can't be touched by anyone. You're above the law. And then just to have that moment where now you have to show your face and you have to answer to the public on why you made the choices that you made, because a lot of them were unethical in the way that affected the populace, the main populace. That would you be strong enough to stand up and say, yes, I did this, or would you want to shy away from it? Some people in those situations unalive themselves because they can't take that sort of ridicule or having to be scrutinized on that level. And I'm just thinking about that because we're so close. When you have a crash retrieval pilot that works for a contractor, that contractor obviously took whatever that was to a facility, maybe their own facility. And it's like you're one step away from being in the facility where these things are being held. And when that moment happens, people who work there, people who are part of keeping all that stuff secret, will then be exposed and have to show themselves. And it's going to be crazy because it could be your neighbor. It could be someone that you see at the grocery store every week that is actually the one in charge or the one that has been working with this stuff this whole time. And it's just going to be crazy to see.
Yeah. I feel that something's coming. They have to, that there has to be a response to the drones soon. Like, this, I'm assuming I was assuming within, it would happen before now, but there has to be some response soon. I'm just interested to see what comes out in that, honestly, and go from there. But I think there's higher powers to work too. I think there's a government disclosure and powers to be, but also, the Star Brothers and, whoever's the Andromedans, Pleiadians, or whoever's out there, that's coming here. I think we're gonna have open contact. I think we're gonna have face-to-face like contact soon on a grand scale. And they're on their own accord too. I think they're working, I don't really think they're paying attention or care about the government's timeline, honestly.
All right. Well, Drew Banky, we're going to end it right there, and we'll be back tomorrow with Drew Banky and After Hours Wrap Up. Drew, have a good rest of your night, man. I'm going to get to the news, and we're going to shut this thing down.
All right, brother. Much love to everybody.
Yep. Talk soon. Take care of it. Later. All right, guys. That's Drew Banky with the After Hours Wrap Up. We're going to go ahead and jump right on into the news and try to get a story out real quick. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
All right, UFO and weird news of the week. And we're going to jump into this one really quick, try to get this one out. Lead flat earth conspiracy theorist shares evidence of one of the biggest events in human history was staged. Oh, here we go again. A leading flat earther has argued that one of the biggest scientific achievements in human history was staged. Flat Earth is the conspiracy that just refuses to die, regardless of how many astronauts blast off into space and photograph our home planet in all of her round, glorious beauty. Forget science, forget photographic evidence. In the mind of a hardcore flat earther, we live on a floating frisbee where the ocean just cascades over the side like an interstellar waterfall. One of the most prominent flat earthers is U.S. content creator Mark Sargent. As a man who is widely credited as popularizing the modern flat earth movement, Sargent regularly shares his theories on YouTube, believes planets are just, quote, lights on the ceiling, and he even appeared in Netflix's 2018 documentary Behind the Curve. Sargent's beliefs have since expanded beyond flat earth to include ideas that Bigfoot walks among us and that astronauts are Freemasons. In Sargent's view of space, the absence of conventional planets means the 1969 moon landing wasn't possible, an argument which he outlines on the Harry Robinson and Carl Regler's Mad That series, a podcast which aims to interview the most exclusive guests and uncover the maddest stories. So what does Sargent have to say about the moon landings? Quote, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, Sargent said of the Apollo 11 mission. Quote, you see what resonates with the public, you change a few details, and then the story becomes better. Sargent then went on to claim that soft spacesuits depicted in TV and film aren't scientifically possible, which suggests to him the moon landings were fake. Quote, tell me how a spacesuit works in a vacuum and tell me how it works, he said, going on to add that America capitalized on their post-World War II advantage to become the greatest showman of the world, which isn't entirely wrong. The Americans, if there is a rumor or lie that will make us look better, we won't hesitate, he said. We will absolutely do it. Sargent then went on to add that this line of thinking was spearheaded the moon landings as a way to improve America's prestige. Quote, you don't realize what happened after World War II. The rest of the world was smoldering, he said. Everybody was picking up ashes except America. Quote, America was like, let's start inventing stuff. And then somebody came up with the idea that's like, you know what? Let's say we went to the moon. Thankfully, due to the advancements in space technology, it won't be too long until the average person can head up into space and settle the debate once and for all. And that is the UFO and weird news of the week. So, flat earthers, what do you guys think about flat earthers? Should we have a flat earther on the show? Would you be interested in hearing from a flat earther? Go ahead and let me know that, and then we'll consider looking into potentially having something like that happen. Otherwise, it has been an awesome show tonight. We definitely want to thank our guests tonight, Deb Shakti and Josh Rutledge of the Transcendence podcast. Make sure you guys go over there and subscribe. Also, go subscribe to Mr. Rob G's The Social Dig. Awesome platform. We also want to thank Drew Benke for coming in with the After Hours wrap-up. We want to thank Steve Stockton, Tales Untold, Missing Person Mysteries. We also want to thank the man that you hear right there, Ron Bumblefoot Dog, the man that rocks us out each and every weekend as he teaches us and tells us to never say never again, because yes, the phenomenon is real, which means anything and everything is possible. If you love the show tonight, show some love and support. Go ahead, throw your horns up. Also, we want to thank everyone who is listening, watching, or listening on terrestrial radio or digital platforms, or whenever, wherever the world you may be listening from. Thank you for tuning your frequency to Spaced Out Radio, where we do what we do best. And what is that, you ask? We own the night. Once again, this show is copyright Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media Ventures Limited. It has been a pleasure serving you as your host once again. I'm Mr. Rob G. This is the After Hours Radio Show. And to all the space travelers out there, this isn't a goodbye nor a farewell. However, as we go off here for the night, you best believe we'll see you next time. Thanks for coming in. Much love to everybody. Thanks for your love and support. See you tomorrow night. All right, we are clear. We are clear. Everyone has been awesome. Thank you for coming in tonight. We will attempt to do a call-in show tonight. And let me see here. I want to go ahead and take a look at something real quick before we go. I was looking through the chat here, and there was a comment that I saw about Drew. And I can't allow our chat to say anything negative about the people here on the show. This is something I have to say. So this is no love loss to the person who may have put this out there in the chat. But we love and we support everyone who comes in to put on a great show for you guys. And please show the people here and even our guests as much as respect as you would like to have yourself. So we don't need to call any names out. We won't do that. Just know that we still love you. It's all love. And, let's reciprocate it and make sure just we do better with each other, right? Because we are all we got. And we have to make sure that we, we're gonna need to lean on each other at some point. And we just want to make sure that we keep that sort of energy going on around here. So love you guys. No love lost. Please don't take this as any slight, and just all love and respect to everyone out there. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and shut this thing down because we want retribution. Once again, I'm going to try to get over and do a live show. It is possible that I can do it, but I got to travel across town. So with that being said, you guys enjoy the rest of your night, and I will see you next time. You guys all take care.
Cause we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution. Oh yeah, we want retribution.